Hello, everybody. This is Mark Savdi from Crypto Studio. I am here to talk about Bitcoin and what's going on with it. I am going to explain why now is a potentially good time to start considering getting into it. Um, I am looking at the daily chart. After Bitcoin for the past 3 months, it has done very wild things. It went all the way up from the beginning of November until mid December. It went all the way up from around 5,500 all the way to almost 20,000, got up to like 19,950 or something like that. Now it has just been falling. It's been a wreck ball going all the way down to the 6,000, back to the 6,000 area where it this big move from 5,500 started. So I'm going to explain why this is potential, even though we're still in a downtrend, as RSI and MACD tell us. This is still a pretty decent area to start considering taking a few shots at it. I'm not talking about selling your house and putting or getting a second mortgage to put it into Bitcoin. I'm just saying, risk as much as you can afford to lose. Do not risk more than that. And always trade with a stop. So wherever whatever strategy you're using to get into anything, I'm talking cryptocurrencies or futures or stocks or options or anything, you always have to have an exit strategy. All right. So in this case, if you buy something, then you have to know where's your maximum loss is going to be at. Uh, so you have to use stops. That's the number one rule of trading and investing. Use a stop. Know where's the maximum loss that you're going to be taking. Anyway, we are back to the support area on Bitcoin. It goes from 5,300 to 7,800. That's the origin of the move. We have a lot going on for it. We have the RSI, which got very close to the oversold area. Not quite there, what you want to see when it gets when Bitcoin or any other product gets to a support area where you want to get in. You want to see the RSI in oversold area. Now, I always expand the oversold and overbought levels a little bit higher than the default. In most of the platforms, when you load the RSI, you see these lines at 30 and 70. I like to put them a little further away. I like to put them at 20 and 80. So 20 and below would be the oversold area, and 80 and above would be overbought. Now, one thing that I've always said also is when you're taking a trade, you have to take it based on price action. Never take a trade based on what an indicator tells you, because all the indicators are lagging the actual price action. So you want to see price do what you want it to do, and then you use the indicators as odds enhancers. That's all you got to use the indicators for, is odds enhancers. And you also can use a few tools like Fibonacci's or other stuff like that, and those are just to help you get into the trades and out of them. All right. So since Bitcoin is still inside the level, unlike some of the other cryptos that already left the levels, and I'm going to show you those a little further into this presentation. But since Bitcoin is still inside the level, then we can consider getting a trade anywhere inside of it. But I am still going to go down to a smaller time frame to see if I can find uh, potentially a better place that it can retrace to get into the trade. Okay, so I'm gonna expand this. I might go even to a smaller time frame. I always, when I go to smaller time frames, I like starting with a 60 minute. Always start with a higher time frame when you're analyzing anything, and then start working your way down to smaller time frames to find better entries, or to make your levels of entries a little bit smaller so you can risk a little bit less. Now, every time you do that, you're gonna decrease the probabilities of your trade working out, but you always have to. It's all about risk management. So it depends on how much you can risk in any trade, and how much you're willing to lose, or how much you can afford to lose. All right. So anyway, I go down to a 60 minute. I don't see too much yeah, aside from a potential retracement of this big move of the Bitcoin, that all the way from just under 6,000, and it already moved up good 20 25% to the 60, I'm sorry, 7600 area. All right, so a little bit more than 25%, but someone can consider taking a shot at it when it does a retracement to retest these lower levels. Okay, so that's when you would be considering a double bottom, and you could use that to decide to take a trade there at that point or not, or you can even get in here and then go for a higher risk as far as like the money lost, but you would have to put the stop somewhere down here. All right. Anyway, that's all that all depends on how much you're willing to risk and what strategy you're using to get into the trade. But in the higher time frame, in the daily chart, it's still inside the level where it can be bought. All right, so that is what I'm looking for. Now I can go to a small time frame to see if I find anything like 30-minute, see if I find some kind of pattern that I like. Notice that it's already doing now it's already doing the waves. Okay, but it does have a lot of resistance. I'm going to show you that resistance just above where it sits right now. Okay, and I'm going to show you as well the strategy that I'm using to give me the targets, because at this point not everybody can short cryptocurrencies. Yeah, you can do it in the futures, but that's completely different. There's almost no volume in the futures, so that's why I'm not touching those for now. All right, so there's one area here, there's one strategy that I use that's called a 7888, and basically what it does, it uses the Fibonacci's to tell me where to short, where to long. In this case, I'm going to use it just to tell me where the targets are or can be. So I am going to use that as if I'm already in the trade on Bitcoin, so I'm going to use that as my target. All right, my entry is 6400, and now I am looking for an exit strategy. So my exit strategy is going to be using the using this pivot to try to get out of the trade, but I want to do it at the correct areas. So that's what I'm going to be looking for as far as like targets. Now I know that there's going to be resistance in this area. It's not that far away. It's around 8,000. There is definitely going to be resistance there. I have no doubt about it. So I am going to put that line as yellow. Okay, there is this resistance area here, and we got a resistance here, and we also have another one here. Now the good thing about this one, which actually increases the probability of Bitcoin getting here, is that all these are magnets. Even this one is a magnet. This being a magnet that's inside a level that I would be shorting if I could short Bitcoin, it makes the probability higher of it working out. But anyway, this is what I'm gonna be shooting for as far as short term, maybe to get out of some part of my trade, maybe take half of it out and then move my stop. Right now I have my stop just below this level. Initially I had it below 5300, but now it's moved so far away. I don't want to risk too much. I don't want to risk what I've already made. At the very worst, I'll be at break even on this trade. So right now I have my exit at 6400 if it goes back down there. So now it's either a break even or a winning trade. Okay, now areas where I know that Bitcoin's probably gonna find some resistance are this level here around 7900, and the other one would be this one just a little bit higher than that, but that matches with my level, my shorting level. Okay, what would be my shorting level if I could short Bitcoin? So this would be around 8700. I could use Fibonacci's to fine-tune this one, but I'm just gonna leave it like that. So in the 8700 area would be where I'm going to be, will be when I'm going to be taking half of my position off. And as I said, I am going to start moving my stop up at that point. At this point, I have my stop at 6400. So the worst that can happen is I'll be at break even on this trade. Okay, but once it hits my target one, I'm going to get out of half of my position, and then start moving my stop, maybe below this pivot here, maybe a little bit higher. I'll see what it does when it as it gets up there. But at this point, the worst that can happen is I'll be at break even. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in this extremely strong resistance area. It is going to have trouble going through that. I'm not saying it's not going to do it, but it is going to have some trouble when it gets there. It should have some trouble. Okay, that is the origin of this big move that happened in the last couple of days. All right, so that is Bitcoin. Now let's go ahead and look at Dash. Dash is a beautiful setup also. That initially when my viewers, I sent setups to my viewers every day or almost every day. Sometimes there's just no setup, so I don't send them. But this was a really classic setup. I sent this one yesterday. This screenshot was taken yesterday, and I sent it to my viewers. And I hope that some of them caught it. I caught it. I got my entry was 411. It hit it. It actually went to 397, but my stop was still pretty far away. My stop is actually at 200. So I know exactly how much I'm risking. I know what is the furthest that I will let it go before getting out of the trade. So my stop's at 200. I am still in this trade. I have not moved the stop or anything. I'm going to show you what it has done. What it has done. Let me go to a higher time frame on Dash. Where's my daily? So let me. Well, I can just use. I can just change it to a daily. Oh, come on. These platforms are not the great, but not the greatest. But anyway, so let's go to Dash. All right. So this is a level that I have that I just showed you the screenshot from yesterday. On Dash, same exact situation as Bitcoin. This thing went all the way up to 1500, a little more than 1500, and it dropped down all the way down to the 400 area. Okay, this is classic origin of the move. All right, fantastic support area, and that's exactly where it went, and now it's bouncing pretty good from it. It's already moved more than 100 points since I got into this trade. And I'm going to show you how you can get into this trade, not necessarily now, but you can go to a small time frame and try to look for a potential entry on the 30-minute or 15-minute or 60-minute chart. So we'll go to that one in a little bit. For now, let's focus on this one. I'm going to explain what it's doing. Still exactly the same thing as Bitcoin as far as like the RSI and the MACD. Both of them are still pointing straight down. It got very close to it also got very close to the oversold area, but at the same time, I told you I always move these lines, and I'm pretty strict with them at 20 and 80, but the default is 30 and 70. Some people keep them, but as I said before, those are not reasons to get into a trade. Those are just odds enhancers. You always have to go with price action. So price action on this one told me that the area to get into the trade was around 410, 411 with a stop below 212. So I put my stop at 200. I got in at 411. So I'm risking 211 points. I'm sorry, I said 200. I have my stop actually at 210. All right, so I'm risking 201 points. Okay. Now, one question that I have gotten many times is, okay, so that is your entry. What are your targets? I always know where my stops are. I always talk about my stops. In this case, I'm going to use a 1-to-1, 2-to-1, and 3-to-1, but you're going to notice what happens to the target 2. Okay, so target 1, since I'm risking 201 points, is going to be 612 because I got in at 411. So that is going to be target 1. All right, that is around 612. Target 2 would be around 814, or I'm sorry, 813. But I am actually going to do 795. All right, 795, just below this pivot here. That's a technical structure resistance area. All right, so I'm going to put that target 2 just below this pivot here. So it's going to be at 795. Okay, so it's 795. This is target 1 is 6 12, target 2 is 795, and target 3 is going to be up there at around 10. Actually, let me put it exactly where I want it. It's about 1014. All right, let's put it there. It's okay. I'm not gonna worry about those numbers. This green line that you see here, let me see if I can get that out of the way. I know that there's a way to get it out of the way, but I just need to figure that out. Anyway, that's just where the price is right now. So I know that the price is at 517. My entry was 411. My target 1 is 612. Target 2 is 795. Target 3 is 1014. Okay, that's what I'm going to be looking for as far as targets of Dash. Now, if someone is watching this that didn't get my levels from yesterday for Neo, for Dash, for Bitcoin, then they can always go to a smaller time frame and try to look for an entry in a small time frame. Every time I go to small time frame, I go to 60-minute and try to see what I can find, a potential area where I can get into it. Same thing as the other one, as Bitcoin. A retracement back to do a double bottom in this area would not be a bad place to try to get in if it goes back down there. But usually when something creates a low like cryptos seem to be creating today, um, usually goes down and does a double bottom. So I'm going to be looking at a potential double bottom somewhere in this area between the 383, which was close to the low, and 426. Before it starts retracing, this will probably become smaller, but before it starts retracing, I am going to put the fibs, but I want to see it retracing so I don't have to keep changing that. So for now, that's where I'm going to leave it, for a potential re-entry into this trade on Dash. Okay, that would be one. Another one would be this one here. I could actually take it to a smaller time frame and maybe do a 7888 on the way up. So let me see what that looks like on a 30-minute chart. 30-minute. Let's do a 15-minute. Might look better in a 15-minute. Not exactly. Let's do a 5-minute. Now, every time I reduce the chart to a smaller time frame, I also reduce the probabilities. The higher the time frame, the higher the probabilities. But this is a beautiful 7888 setup on the 5-minute chart. Okay, so I call it 7888, just to give it a name. You can call it whatever you want to. This strategy is 7888 just because I use the 7888 fibs to get into trades like this, but I have to have the perfect picture, and I do a course where I explain that quite a bit. So it's drop, beige, rally, then it comes back down to this support area, and in that support area I get in to take it long. So that's using a 5-minute chart to get into that higher time frame trade and still be within the parameters, or a potentially good trade, catch it at the low or close to the low, and try to take it up much higher. Okay, so I'm not going to put the fibs in here to help me get into the trade. Tools are just to help you get into the trades and out of the trades. Indicators are just odds enhancers to help you trade, but always remember, price action is the most important thing. Price action is the reason why you get into a trade. Okay, so in this case, the price action tells me that this is going to be a support area where Dash has a relatively high probability to coming back into, and will allow people who are not into this Dash trade to get into it without having to chase it so far out. Okay, so that is what I'm going to be looking for as far as getting into the trade. I explain all this in detail in my trading courses. Okay, which you'll be able to find in a little bit. I'm going to give you a little bit detail if you're interested in watching my courses, and then you'll understand a little bit more about these strategies to get into trades. Not chasing, always using stops. Those are things that I always tell my students, just to follow those rules. Okay, so we have this area here. For now, that can change. The proximal line can change. Once this starts retracing, I'll put some pips in it, and it's gonna give me an area around the 460 to get into it. All right. So that is what I have for Dash. So for Dash in the higher time frame, we go back to the daily chart and see what it's doing. It's already at 518. It's moving pretty nicely. Okay, it is moving so nicely. So it's still far from my targets. Not too worried about it, but it is still going good. Okay, now let's move on to Neo. All right, Neo is also one of my favorites. Now, this is the setup on Neo. All right, this is the setup on Neo, but I do have Neo right here. This was a screenshot that I sent my followers and my students yesterday. Um, it was very clear. This is a 7888 on the daily chart. You cannot expect anything better than this, any better setup than this. This is an absolutely perfect setup. Okay, drop, beige rally, moves up so much, then comes back down. Actually, to 1/3 of the high. Beautiful area to get in. Explosive move out of there. Drop, beige rally, retest into it. I was hoping that it would get down there, and it actually did. So let's go to the Neo chart and see what it did after that. Boom. It was perfect trade. It's been the best performer. My entry was 66, and it is been just rocking. It's up to 105, though it's moved good 40 points or so, and it's more than 60%, around 70% in 1 day's action. That's absolutely um, nothing to cry about. It's actually something to celebrate. So of course, into this trade getting at 66, I knew where my stop was going to be. So guess what? My stop was at 30. So all I was risking was 36 points. At this time, it has already moved to a 1-to-1, but this is a 7888. So I'm going to show you how I take these targets actually getting pretty close to my target. I go to point A, I go to point B, and I go to point C. Okay, these are the fib extensions. All right, these are not the fib retracement. It's a different tool, and that's all it is. It's a tool. So I'm going to take out all the lines that don't matter to me. I'm just going to leave the 78, and I'm going to leave the 50. Those are that when I use 7888 targets, that's all I do. Is I use the 50% extension and the 70% extension. Those are targets 1 and 2 for me on Neo. Okay, now I'm going to explain. Some people are going to say, wow, you're going to think that it's going to get all the way to the top. Well, there's a probability that it might. Okay, it's already moved 70% in 1 day. Why can it not go all the way up there? I think it can. So I'm going to put this, let's put a different color just so that it is easily identifiable. Okay, let me put another one. I'm going to put it up here just so that I can have in my chart where my targets are going to be. Alright, so those are my targets right there on Neo. These will be a double top, 78% extension from this move down here, and that's what I'm going to be looking for. So my exits are going to be at 146 and 192. Neo went, I believe it went just at 200. So my target 2 is just below 200. I'm going to put it at 192 and 146. So I can never, and when I do a 7888 targets, I can never add those targets right away to my trade because I don't know if it's going to get back into a level and it's going to go a little bit deeper into it. Okay, so that is my trade on Neo. It is still rocking. Now, if anyone wanted to get into this trade on Neo and already missed this level, well, instead of chasing it all the way up here, that would be just stupid to do. The best way to do it would be good to go to a smaller time frame again to the 60-minute and try to find along this move here some place where it can give you a potential entry. And all of them did a bit of a drop beige rally here. All right, so maybe a retest to this pivot here maybe a retest to this pivot here. This is a good 7888. Actually, this is a pretty good looking 7888. Smaller time frame and everything, but it's just a tool to help me, or a way to help me not chase something so far out. So I'll look at retracement back here, or I could look at a double bottom all the way down here. Okay, so when you miss a trade on a higher time frame like the daily, and then you still want to get in, you're not going to chase it all the way out there. You have to go to smaller time frame and look for an entry where you can get some kind of retracement and get into it at a little bit of a smaller risk, rather than chasing it all the way up here and then seeing it drop all the way down, and then where you're going to put your stop all the way down here, you're going to be risking this whole amount. So it's not smart thing to do. So I'm not going to put any fips or levels in there until this thing shows me where it's going to go and starts retracing, and then I'll figure out where would be the entry for that neo trade for someone who would not be in the trade at this point. Okay, so that is pretty much a very quick presentation of how I trade, what I look for, origins of the move, 7888s, pivots. That's all I look for to get into trades. I never chase anything, and I'm not chasing anything right now. So um, we you can go and visit us at cryptostudio.io. You can click on that name down here that I have my cursor on. You can click on it, and it'll take you to our website. And you can also watch some of our other videos that I'm going to be loading up into YouTube. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon again. Bye bye.